Yeah. So I have a really unpopular opinion, I would say. And it's in that if you owe taxes, in a lot of cases, your business is doing well. And so that's a good thing. The trick is to not pay more in taxes than what is absolutely required. And there are ways to strategize around that. And kind of the one key way to make sure that, you're capturing your deductions is to have sound bookkeeping and sound record keeping and not just throw yourself in a shoebox and hope for the best. Because, if it were to ever come time for an audit, you need to be able to show very clear and clean records to substantiate all of those expenses.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to my podcast. I am Tiffany Alexander, and we are on this journey. We are unveiling a journey today with Teresa. As you guys know, I'm a huge fan of networking. Just legit. The power of networking is incredible. I get introduced to one person and I say, wow, you're so cool. I want to meet more people like you. And what happens? I get introduced to more people. I say, how can I meet more people just like you? And I want you guys to add that to your language of everybody that you're working with. I get the privilege of hanging out with some of the coolest entrepreneurs, business owners, high net worth, regular net worth, struggling entrepreneurs, and just amazing people. And let me just tell you, as a real estate investor, I've had highs and lows. This fantastic guest that I have with us today is going to change the way you're going to see and have your perspective of doing things the right way when you're a real estate investor. And I want her to help unpack. We're going to unveil her journey. And with that, we're going to get to know Teresa a little bit today. So Teresa, come on in. Tell us a little bit about you. Where are you at?
Yeah, I'm calling in from Canton, Ohio today. So that's where I'm based. And currently we have an accounting firm and we're a pretty small team. So we are able to give our clients some undivided attention, which is incredible. And this is our third year in business. So we're offering primarily bookkeeping and tax services, and we specifically work with real estate investors.
Man, real estate investors, those guys, let me just tell you, if you were just working with W-2ers, that would be, okay, you've got like one sheet of paper and you've got the easiest tax return ever. Why did you decide to work with the hardest level of people that have the most paperwork, the most receipts laying around, and the most potentially scatterbrained people that are one-offs or 1,000 units? How did you get into that?
Yeah, so I specifically chose my niche because I worked in real estate development for about 12 years. And we literally started from being a desk clerk up through operations management and essentially running the business and had my hands in a little bit of everything. So kind of once you get to that point, you're kind of ready to expand and, move on and, bigger and better things. And so I kind of had that mindset of like, if I'm doing all of these things for this company, why am I not doing these things for myself? And so I decided to take that leap and start my own firm.
Oh, that's awesome. You told me a pretty big number. How many at one point doors were you over and working with?
Well, we operated in about 5 states, and as far as number of doors, that's a little bit different. We had a couple of apartment complexes. We were in hotels, commercial properties, single family homes. We did like construction projects too. So it was like a little bit of everything. And kind of if it's in real estate, I've probably had my hands on it at some point.
Nice. Now, my favorite thing to ask people is, hey, just because I didn't, but did you go to college to do this, or how'd you end up here? Tell us a little bit
No,
about the start of it.
So I went to college for newspaper journalism and psychology. So while I was working the front desk during my college days at the hotel, the owner came to me and said, we'd really like to keep you on. And I have a role in my office that I think you'd be a good fit for. So I was open to that. And that's when I was introduced to being a controller for the business. And at that time, I had no idea what that meant. There were a lot of crying and wondering what the heck I got myself into kind of once I was in there, within those first 3 years or so. But, once you kind of get beyond that first 3 years, that's when you kind of start mastering your craft and figuring out, what's what and which end is up. And so that's when I really fell in love with it and figured out like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So I ended up growing into the operations, but I started my career essentially in the accounting space.
Oh man, why journalism? Is that any of that old school like want of where you wanted to go helpful for you today?
It's helpful in the sense of knowing what questions to ask, being able to ask smart questions, and being able to know like where to research, what's public information, what isn't. So it's been really helpful in that sense. When I was in high school, it was sort of like a hobby. I was on like a teen newspaper type of deal. And so, it sort of just made sense to go for a newspaper journalism degree. But as I was getting into my senior years with my degree, a lot of my friends were being furloughed and laid off from their newspaper jobs. And so immediately I was like, okay, like I need to learn from this and decide I need to go a different direction because I didn't want that to be my future. So I was looking for alternatives anyway.
I'm glad that you were able to see that. And imagine that's why you're working for yourself now and growing your business, because you were able to see what was happening and shift. Like you made a pivot where you had to make that decision. Can you imagine people right now, they're like in their college degree, seeing that there's no hope for a job and having to shift gears real quickly? Tell us about the other side of it, like going to school for psychology. How are you dissecting some of these people that you're working with? I imagine you can't shut that off now.
Yeah, I think just from, behaviorally, it's kind of interesting to see how how people work differently and trying to find their strengths and, working with them in a way that it makes sense and being able to communicate with them in a way that makes sense. The psychology degree really wasn't planned. It was actually my minor. And once I was kind of getting to the end of working through my newspaper degree, it was more like I only need a couple, like I needed 2 classes to finish the major. And I was just like, all right, like I guess I'll take that one too.
Oh, I relate about like, hey, you just need 2 classes to finish something, except I justified never taking those 2 classes and realized I'm not going to do this whatsoever. Wow, and my cat is on my lap, so we're going to have a guest today. Um,
Love it.
surprise guest, right? That's what we get when we work from home, right? Uh,
Yeah.
that is so fun. Where and why did you decide to turn just to the accounting piece of it? And actually, let me ask you a different question. Going into accounting, you were kind of groomed for it in a manner of like the job that you were in. How did it become so important to you that you wanted to do it by yourself?
Yeah, I think just because I was seeing like how challenging it was to be compliant in that space, especially, working in multiple states and working with different property types. And, you've got sales tax requirements, lodging tax requirements that apply in some cases, but not in others. And so I recognize that for a lot of small business owners and even medium-sized business owners that I've found since I started my firm, that it's really hard for clients to kind of keep up on those things. So to have somebody who's in that space and like that's their whole job is to stay on top of the industry, know what's compliant, what isn't, what's deductible, what isn't, how to deduct it, how to strategically set yourself up so that you're not paying more in taxes than you have to pay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's just kind of where it made sense.
Oh, that's a great question I want to ask, because I have had multiple interviews with multiple people that are working on my accounting for getting me to the point of being the best well-rounded person I could be for the government, right? Like I need to show that I don't make a ton of money because I don't want to pay that much in taxes. I only want to pay my fair share. But at the same time, I want to show that I make enough if I ever want to qualify for something, right? I want to show what that is. These are really hard things to do. What is your like magic formula on helping somebody decide what that is?
Yeah. So I have a really unpopular opinion, I would say. And it's in that if you owe taxes, in a lot of cases, your business is doing well. And so that's a good thing. The trick is to not pay more in taxes than what is absolutely required. And there are ways to strategize around that. And kind of the one key way to make sure that, you're capturing your deductions is to have sound bookkeeping and sound record keeping, and not just throw yourself in a shoebox and hope for the best. because, if it were to ever come time for an audit, you need to be able to show very clear and clean records to substantiate all of those expenses.
Oh, that is great advice. I know that there are some people right now that are convicted and they understand that they may be doing just exactly that. And you're probably going to be a solver for them once we get them introduced to you. Now, some of these things, some people are really like, well, I want to step over a dollar to save a nickel. How do you talk to someone and let them know, grow in the comfort that you've got everything in their best interest for them?
Yeah, for me, I think in a lot of cases, I tend to care more about the client's business than they care about it for themselves. And I think that's really challenging for me because, like, I just want everything in the world for my clients, but like, I can truly only care as much as they do and help them only to the level that they are ready to be helped. So I kind of have to meet them where they're at and be able to guide them in the right direction.
Wow. If that isn't the best thing I think I've heard someone say, that was going to be doing the documents that I don't want to do to help me submit what I need to submit to the IRS, hands down. I definitely have had a conversation in the past where I was interviewing someone to be like my CPA. And I said, what do you think about these deductions that we're like unsure of? She goes, well, anything that isn't like totally black and white, we just try to avoid. And I thought there's a lot of gray area in real estate. It's not clearly defined and we can operate safely in this gray area. And it's like, how far do we want to push the limit? So definitely, if you've ever interviewed somebody, I'm talking to all you guys listening to this episode, and they're like, oh, we don't do gray. It's like a lot of our real estate investing is in the gray. There's not been a clearly defined number that says you can do this and can't do this. And at the same time, the people that have fought it all the way to the Supreme Court, we listen to what it is that they say, and we listen to those experts that say, well, here's the gray, don't go here, right? Versus it being such a black and white thing. Is there like a defining criteria of the people that you feel like you help best, or like clients that you love to take on?
Right now, it seems like just because of the size of our firm and like being 3 years old right now that, and being a smaller team, that we work better with smaller clients, but we've also worked with clients up to about 14 million in annual revenue. And so I've noticed that they all have similar challenges across the board. So it doesn't really seem to matter how much money you make in the space. It's really more when it comes down to things like making sure that you're organized, making sure that you know like what you're allowed to do or what you're not allowed to do. And it's important to have a professional on your side to be able to navigate those things and help you through those things. And you're right. It's very challenging because there is so much gray area in the real estate space. And so you need to be able to have somebody who's able to kind of navigate you through what that gray area is, what that looks like, and, give you that hard boundary when it is truly a black and white issue and like where the IRS is very clear in their direction.
Are you able to help somebody that has had someone that really didn't feel like they were in their court, that you could even do something like I've heard some companies say they can do a 3-year look back to go look for something that someone purposely stepped over? Could you help them go square up the past?
Yeah, that's happened for many of our clients actually, where they've brought us tax returns that were a complete disaster. And it was literally like, and it wasn't even like we intentionally went back to look for 3 years. It was like, okay, let's look at your prior year return because we always do a comparison last year to current year. And then it was like, oh, now we're seeing weird things on last year's. And like, if it's even remotely a weird flag for us, like, what does that say about when it goes to the IRS? And like, they're doing their analysis based on the data from all the businesses throughout the US. So, it's really important to fix it with your professional on like this end rather than having to deal with it when it comes up with IRS.
For sure. I have a very crazy question for you. There are thousands and thousands of pages of not just active documents that are like the rule book for the IRS, but every day it seems like they're releasing thousands of more pages. How do you keep up with that for all your clients?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. We stay subscribed to the tax pro side of the IRS thing. So they make sure that we're getting regular updates. And it's super nerdy, but like we just read the tax code for fun and like we read those court cases for fun and, let it be fun for us. Like you don't have to like dive into that as an entrepreneur and figure all of that out. Leave it to the nerds to navigate.
That is awesome because I want everybody here who's listening, that my fellow friends, please stay in your genius zone. If you love doing this, you love doing that, hire the people that love reading the tax code for fun. I definitely don't enjoy certain aspects of the things I need to do for my business. And I always look to hire that out because if I don't enjoy it, then I'm not going to be giving my all or doing my best at it. You're probably like passing it or something, whatever it is, right? Oh my goodness. What is going to be something that you guys are like pressing on to do bigger and better that you want to maybe share as a secret here with us today?
Yeah, I mean, we would love to expand the services that we offer and to be able to, grow our firm. But my goal in our growth is also to make sure that our clients are receiving that personalized attention and that our clients don't become just a number, so to speak. That's kind of the feedback that I get when I'm on calls with a lot of clients, is that with other firms, they start feeling like, oh, they're just another number. And we want to make sure that they're getting, active guidance, active feedback when they're asking for it, and they're not waiting months to hopefully maybe hear from their accountant.
Yeah, I know it's coming up. Let's see. This episode is probably going to be published just a hair before tax time, and you may get some phone calls right from everybody, but it's never too late to reach out because now that you know you have somebody that is excited to read tax code, knows and understands, and probably is going to learn to love your business more than you do, that you know she's got your best interest in place and going to keep you squeaky clean with keeping your books straight for the IRS, they are going to be clamoring at how to get to know you. What is your favorite way that you want people to reach out to you, like your websites and your social media?
Yeah, our website is always great at revelist.com. We're mostly active on Facebook. That seems to be like where a good chunk of people, especially in the real estate space, like to kind of congregate. I think the marketplace is a good support, as well as various groups to like, buy and sell and all those things. So that seems to be like a really great place to connect with us. And we're also on your favorite socials in other places as well.
Nice, nice. So there are easy ways that you're saying right now. People can go right onto your website and click like request an initial meeting that they can come hang out with you.
Yeah,
And they're going to find
absolutely.
out just exactly how much you start to instantly care about what it is that they're going through. What would you say that, because we've got like several minutes left here, let's go into maybe some of these one-liner nuggets or just maybe a whole PowerPoint of nuggets. Like, what is it that you think that you could show people they could work on right away to alter or edit or straighten up what it is that they're doing, being an investor and working on their books?
Yeah, I would say if you don't know how to use a particular accounting software, don't use it. In a lot of cases, we see investors who are trying to use, say, like QuickBooks. And of course, QuickBooks wants to advertise that they fully automate and it's all AI and, whatever. But the reality is you still have to know what you're doing on some level. You have to be able to navigate the software and you have to be able to get it in the right places so it lands on the financial statements in the right place. One of our favorite resources for landlords and property managers is Stessa, which is completely free for tracking your books. And they also have a dedicated chart of accounts. So you can't like modify it or change it, I think, until you get maybe on one of their paid plans or something. But they keep it very simple and straightforward. And if you only have one or two properties, you can just keep that in a spreadsheet, honestly, and, be pretty organized about it without getting into anything crazy. And then kind of once you start getting into more of an actual portfolio, that would be a really good time to work with a professional bookkeeper who specializes in this space.
That is great advice. I definitely was one of those real estate investors that operated straight from Excel. And then Excel went to like an annual membership and I switched that sucker right over to Google Documents,
Mhm.
that way I could just share it with anybody willy nilly. What are some other great tools or tips that you want to leave with everybody?
Yeah, another one of my favorite tools that everybody always asks about is a mileage tracker. And so I like to use Everlance. That's a really great tool. It literally automatically tracks when you're moving in a vehicle. And so it's easy as swiping right or left to be like work or personal. So it's a lot easier to keep track of your mileage because it's automatically tracking. It gives you a notification when your trip is done. to go categorize that trip and leave some notes on there. So that's a really good, easy way to stay compliant without, the chaos and crazy that kind of comes along with figuring that out at the end of the year when you've forgotten.
Oh, for sure. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I know. I remember trying to remember what that stuff was. And I'm going to tell you, if you listening to this are like I was and occasionally do sometime revert back into, oh, I don't have to worry about this until October. Listen, your brain is not going to remember all of those things that you thought you wanted to remember from the year before, let alone if you get with somebody like Teresa, she's going to show you how you could actually go back and look at stuff that she could edit and alter the past to make your future better. If you're a person that's doing your bookkeeping and your submissions to the IRS is funky. I mean, if you have this internal gut feeling that's like, man, I feel like I'm being cheated by the IRS, have a second opinion. You have the right to a second, third, fourth opinion. And if you aren't working with somebody that A, has worked with thousands and thousands of doors, millions and millions of dollars worth of property, you might just decide, you know what, today's the day. Because you don't know what you don't know. And because you don't know it, you are paying more for it. Can I just tell you that you're paying more because you don't know, and you're paying more that if your CPA doesn't know it, it doesn't mean that it's right. It means they're lazy. Sorry to call it what it is.
The thing is, in terms of, what that, what you're paying for that, whether it's, being knowledgeable or unknowledgeable and working with a tax pro, or just even a professional bookkeeper, anything in that capacity, more like it may not be a dollar amount that you see on your books, but you are paying for it.
Right? I believe strongly that if people are just burying their head in the sand, it's way worse off. Like, rip the Band-Aid off, go talk to a second opinion. And if it's like your uncle's brother's aunt that's like doing your taxes for you, or if you're a professional and you're letting H&R Block, I mean, no shade to them, it's very W-2-ish. You need to hire somebody that is in your corner, meaning there is no automated checkbox for the things that you are doing. And there are legitimate things that H&R Block cannot even keep up with in the investing world that we could be overlooking. I mean, no joke. If you are owing more than $25,000 a year, you are losing money somewhere along the lines by not knowing very specialty things in our space of real estate investor space. If you had the right person in your corner, would literally save you money. So with that, I am forever excited that Teresa, you came to hang out with us. Not only was today her first podcast, but man, I'm excited where her business is going to be growing from here. You guys need to go take a moment, check out, friend her on Facebook, LinkedIn, go check out her website and just swing in. Because if you can take time with her and let her identify where it is you could be heading next, you won't be missing out anymore. And that's what's important. Thank you, Teresa. Is there anything you want to leave us with?
No, I was going to say, the one other nugget that I have is that I feel like everybody can kind of benefit regardless of where you're at in your journey, is keeping in mind that all of the things that you do in business is simple. It's not easy. It's hard. It's hard to show up every day. It's hard to bring the consistency, but it is very simple. The formula is very simple.
I love that. I've actually given that quote before. I'm so excited that you gave it and I didn't have to give it. Hey, before you go, how do you make sure you're hiring the right accountant for yourself or your business?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. And it comes down to, being able to verify who is going to be preparing your tax returns. And so, do these people have any sort of licensure? Are they assigned a PTIN, which is a preparer tax ID number? They should be using a PTIN on every tax return that they prepare. I've seen some really shady stuff out there, and it's really hard to navigate, what's good and what's not. And, is this person willing to refer you on when it's truly not in their best interest to have you within their firm? And I've always told my clients, I will be the first one to tell you if you shouldn't be paying me for that question. I will refer you to where you need to go.
Well, that's incredible. I cannot. I cannot even imagine. Not only that of what you just said, but if they don't have that code and they're submitting their taxes for you, but not just that, if they got your back enough that if you did get a phone call or not a phone call, obviously you don't get phone calls from the IRS, you get a letter from the IRS, are they going to have your back all the way through to verifying all that data you submitted for them? That's what I want to make sure is that they're with me from the beginning to the end.
And in addition, there are tax pros out there who will, guarantee that they'll get you a certain amount of a refund or something. And like they literally cannot do that. You can't determine somebody's refund amount until you've fully prepared their tax return. And kind of like you said before, there are things that you may not even realize that were business expenses or that were deductible that, we could be requesting during the tax preparation process, that will actually benefit you versus, just assuming that when you submit that information that the tax preparer is only going to use that information and not ask the finer details and kind of dig into things when it doesn't seem fully like a full picture.
Man, that's a great answer to that. You have been incredible. I'm so excited that people I get to share with your story, your journey, and then for them to be able to get to know you on a deeper level. So that way you could just jump right in and help them with their business. Thank you, everybody. We look forward to seeing you. I look forward to seeing you next time on the next podcast, and take care in the meantime. Bye-bye.